breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer brotherly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beeson Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you. We're actually going to go guest-free on the podcast today. I like to do this every month or so, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but just take a look at the trends that we're seeing in Major League Baseball, what's been hot, what's been cold, what teams have been able to hit the over. I really don't go into straight up record just because, well, you could just scour any basic website to know, the Tampa Bay Rays, they're right now leading the league in terms of wins. The Oakland A's, they can't win a game to save their lives, but just the profitability of these teams. If you bet $100 on the money line on these teams throughout the season, how much/little would you be down? How have some of these pitchers been able to perform for your bankroll as well? And take a look at some of the trends in terms of home overs, home unders, what have you there. So we're going to do that in segment number 2. In the final segment, I'm going to give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we fire those in. First one is by Twitter timeline at @Jaden_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. Maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire on whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter questions today, but we had a great day of baseball on Friday. So let's take a look back at it. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
One team in this game scored 7 runs. One team in this game scored 11. Very fitting that this game was 7-11 because the Oakland A's are open to disappointing. They lose the Cincinnati Reds 11-7. Drew Rosinski, NC Dinos legend, made his season debut for the Oakland A's. I think that this was his first time on an MLB mound since 2018. Didn't go as planned. He gives up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned, 11 hits in total, and 5 2/3 innings, including a home run. Jake Fraley took him deep for his second home run season. He takes a loss. Luis Cessa was not sharp. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. What is sharp, by the way, is that the first 27 games of the season for the Oakland A's, 18 overs, top over team in all of baseball. We're going to hit that a little bit more in segment number 2 and trends like that. But yeah, Lucas Sims go for a scoreless inning. Derek Law and Buck Farmer combined for 2 innings. Law gave up 2 runs along the way, including a home run, as Oakland's actually been solid with the bats, as it was Ryan Noda who got his 3rd home run of the season off of him, and then Brent Rooker in the 9th inning gets home run number 8 of the season off of Fernando Cruz, who gave up 2 runs over the course of an inning, and for Oakland, their bullpen continues to stink. Samuel Paravot's out of the bullpen scoreless, but Shintaro Fujinami gives up 2 runs over the course of an inning. Sammy Long, he got 5 outs. He gave up 4 runs. The DK Nation write-up streak is up to 6. The under in the Cleveland Guardians versus the Boston Red Sox hit. We go for 7 here on Saturday, 5-2. The Cleveland Guardians able to get it done as they had a pair of home runs to aid them. Mike Zunino goes deep off of Nick Pivetta, his 2nd home run season, and then Will Brennan, his 1st home run season that came off of Cutter Crawford. Crawford in long relief looked good, by the way. Gives up that solo home run over the course of 4 innings. Nick Pivetta, not so good. He gives up 4 runs in 5 innings, including that bomb. For the Red Sox, they go 2 of 13 with men in scoring position as Shane Bieber. Not a lot of swing and miss in this game, just 4 punch-outs, but gives up 2 runs over the course of 7 innings. Trevor Stephen Emmanuel Clase. They come in for scoreless 8th and 9th innings. The Tampa Bay Rays remain hot. 22-5 is their start to the season. They take down the Chicago White Sox 3-2. And the White Sox, by the way, they've now lost 8 straight games. I believe that they've got 1 win in their last 11. For the Tampa Bay Rays, Isaac Paredes was able to go deep for home run number 4 of the season. That came off of Kendall Graveman, and he dug the grave for the White Sox, giving up that home run late as Lucas Giolito actually didn't land a bad start. Gave up 2 runs in 6 2/3 innings. Reynaldo Lopez, 1 1/3 inning scoreless, but for the White Sox, both of their runs came off of solo home runs off of Zach Eflin. Jake Berger's 7th home run season, and Andrew Vaughn, his 2nd home run of the campaign as the White Sox go 0 of 9 with men in scoring position. Eflin, not Eflin great, not Eflin awful. Gives up those 2 solo home runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, Ryan Thompson, Jason Adam, Colin Pouchet were all able to end a scoreless inning, and then Pete Fairbanks was able to piggyback off of Kevin Kelly for a scoreless ninth inning. They get the W. The Walker, Texas Rangers get a 5-2 win over the New York Yankees, and the Rangers are 15-11. Yankees, by the way, have been your top under team in all baseball. Just 9 of their games have went over the total. Clark Schmidt, he did not help out the Yankees' cause, giving up 5 runs in 5 innings, including a home run to Robbie Grossman, third of the campaign. From there, Jimmy Cordero, 2 scoreless innings, Albert Abreu, a scoreless inning, and Jacob deGrom was not long for this game. 3 2/3 innings. He only allows 1 hit, but left the game with some discomfort. His second early exit in his last 3 starts, but bullpen at his back. Dane Dunning, he gets her done in, giving up 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings, and then Jonathan Hernandez, Will Smith get jiggy with it for a scoreless inning apiece. The Philadelphia Phillies take down the reigning champions of the MLB 3-1. The Phillies get it done against the Houston Astros as Aaron Nola looks super in this one. Gave up a solo run over the course of 8 innings. Jeremy Pena gets his 15th home run season. Game in the first inning. He buckled down from there. Jose Alvarado scoreless inning for the save. And Framber Valdez, he gave up a home run of his own, going 7 innings, giving up 3 runs as Kyle Schwarber took him deep in the first inning, his 6th of the campaign. From there, Brian Abreu, Rafael Montero both lend a scoreless inning, but too little too late as the Astros, they are unable to get it done. The Arizona Diamondbacks put up a massive 5 spot in the 9th inning. Still stays under. It got a little bit sweatier than it needed to be, though, if you had the under. 9-1. The Arizona Diamondbacks get it done as Merrill Kelly was terrific, giving up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. From there, Scott McGough, Joe Mantiply, and Miguel Castro all lend a scoreless inning. And it was Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte who went deep off of Kyle Freeland for his 3rd home run season. Freeland takes a loss, but this wasn't a bad performance, giving up 3 runs in 6 innings at Coors Field. That's acceptable. Denelson Lamet giving up 5 runs while getting 1 out. That's pretty unacceptable. Ty Block got a pair of outs out the bullpen, and Justin Lawrence and Daniel Bard, they both lent a scoreless inning as well. The LA Dodgers appear to be getting back on track. They take down the St. Louis Cardinals 7-3 as the Cardinals are now at 10-17. This has been a putrid effort, and they've been playing a lot of games of the under because their offense has been underachieving. This one goes over because Captain Jack Flaherty threw 110 pitches to go 4 2/3 innings, allowing 5 runs, 4 of which were earned for the Dodgers. Mookie Betts took him deep. His 4th home run of the season. Got to feel like he's going to be able to get back online. And then it was home run number 1 of the season for Miguel Vargas as he got his home run off of Chris Stratton, who allowed a solo home run in 1 1/3 innings. Jojo Romero, 2 innings pitch. He gives up 1 run, and for Dustin May, solid performance. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Bullpen from there does their part. Victor Gonzalez, Bruce Sutter, Gradrall, goodbye for a scoreless inning. Alex Vesia does allow a run in an inning. He's had his struggles this year, but Shelby Miller, Caleb Ferguson, both with sub-2 ERAs this season, both lend a scoreless inning. You saw the Minnesota Twins and the Kansas City Royals get in a little bit of shootout, and it was the Twinkies who got the win by a count of 8-6. Pablo Lopez did not provide the start he was looking for. Gives up 6 runs over the course of 6 innings, including serving 1 up to Salvador Perez. For Perez, his 3rd home run season, but bullpen at his back as the other Lopez, Ore Lopez, Caleb Theobar, Griffin Jacks, all in a scoreless inning, and a trio of home runs for the Twins gets it done as Jordan Lyles allows 1 to Ore Palanco. Lots of Ores on the Minnesota Twins. His 2nd home run season. Max Kepler is 3rd as for Jordan Lyles, he gives up 7 runs over the course of 4 innings, and the Kansas City Royals are now 0-6 in his start. So if you bet $100 on every Jordan Lyles start, guess how much money you're down? Yeah, $600. From there, Josh Taylor gives up a solo home run in his 2 innings of work as he was taken deep by Jose Miranda, his 3rd home run of the season. And then Amir Garrett, Taylor Clark, they clean up the mess. They both lend a scoreless inning, but too little too late. This game goes just 5 innings, so if you took a run line on the Braves, that doesn't hit, but if you took the money line that got there, 4-0, the Atlanta Braves get the win. Max Fried, a very technical, complete game, 5 scoreless innings out of him, and for Olsen, his 8th home run season, that comes off of the namesake David Peterson. A complete game loss, giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. Very inclement weather. Mets, they only get 3 hits. Not sure what to think of a game that only went 5 innings, but it was a game that went 5 innings. They got it in, so good on them. And the Miami Marlins, good on them. They got a 3-2 win over the Chicago Cubs as Marcus Stroman, a relatively solid start, gives up 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Mark Leiter Jr. from there provided a pair of outs out of the bullpen, but Michael Rucker yaks this game up, does not get it out in the 9th inning, gives up the winning run after Michael Fulmer provided a scoreless inning, and lone form of offense for the Cubs in this one was really Nelson Velasquez. His third home run season. He's been off the injury list for like a week. He's already got 3 home runs. It comes off of Jesus Luzardo, who gave up 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings. From there, Uskar Blazobin, pair of outside the bullpen. Dylan Floro, AJ Puck, both led a scoreless inning. By the way, the Miami Marlins, they have played just 2 of their home games to the over thus far this season, and that's a lot of what you can expect in segment number 2. We're going to be looking at specialty stats like that before we get into those specialty stats. So let's take a look at what we've all gotten for the season thus far in Major League Baseball, as we now have unders in the lead over overs. 187 unders to 186 overs. I believe that we've gotten something in the neighborhood of like 12 pushes or something like that on totals, but for the first time all year, the under has the lead, and for favorites, they are 238 and 151, hitting at a 61.2% clip on the money line thus far this season. But if you're looking at the favorites, 59 of those 238 wins have come by 1 run to not cover the run line. And then if you have a situation like the Mets versus Braves game where it doesn't go a full 9, the run line does not count there as well. And then for the last 7 days, we've seen favorites go 56 and 34 straight up, but 17 of those games have involved the run line not cashing, and in the last 7 days, it has been an under binge, 49 unders to 36 overs. So that's what we're seeing in Major League Baseball right now, and that is what we all got on Friday. Now let's take a look at some of the big trends that we're seeing in baseball this season. I'd love to do this a few times a year on the podcast. We're going to take a look at the most in-relief profitable pitchers in the big leagues, what teams have been cashing for you, what teams have not been, what teams have been very good to the over, what teams have been very good to the under. We're trend spotting next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units returned, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Typically, this is where we have a little bit of a guest chat, but you know what? I think that once a month, it's always good to be taking a look at the trends of MLB baseball. We're a little bit north of 4 weeks through the season, and as a matter of fact, I believe that we are now at the 30-day mark in terms of the MLB. You don't want to overreact, but I do think that it is interesting to always take a look at the trends that we're getting in Major League Baseball, what teams have been hot/cold with regards to certain things, and I think that now is a good time to be able to do so. So let's take a look at a few trends that we have been getting in Major League Baseball. We'll do about 12 to 15 minutes on these, just try to enlighten you guys a little bit, as we've been finding some interesting teams being very good to the over thus far this season. The top has been the Oakland A's. Going into their very late game against the Reds on Friday, they were the top over team in all of baseball, 70.8% of their games going over. 17 overs, 7 unders, and 2 pushes. What you're going to notice with Oakland is, for one, their offensive numbers really get bogged down because they play in such a pitcher-friendly ballpark in Oakland, and 2, this bullpen stinks. They are dead last in the big leagues in terms of ERA, and if you're dead last in the league in terms of bullpen ERA with that ballpark, you know how bad these pitchers are. The Oakland A's, especially on the road, they've been able to cash you a lot of tickets for the over. As you take a look at the Oakland A's, 11 overs, 2 unders, and a push to my point away from home. Meanwhile, the St. Louis Cardinals, they just have not been able to generate the offense that we were thinking, and they're just teams that they go through a little bit of a rut towards the beginning part of the season, but that's apparent with them, as they have played 9 unders to 4 overs when they've been away from home. They've been the top under team in all of baseball this far this season. And second, this should not come as too much of a surprise, the Colorado Rockies. Something that I always highlight with this team is how demonstratively different they are home to road. They currently have 11 unders to 5 overs when they are on the road with Colorado Rockies. They were number 1 in the league last year in terms of runs per game at home. They were dead last in terms of runs per game when they were away from home. So that has been interesting to take a look at. And when it comes to the month of April, as we know, weather plays a big role with regards to a lot of these ballparks. And We've seen that in a few teams that have been very good to the under when they've been at home this far this season. The New York Yankees have been a good under team, as out of their 16 games in Yankee Stadium, 12 have gone under, and I think that a lot of this does have to do with just the reputation of Yankee Stadium. We always think, oh, it's a bandbox, Mickey Mouse ballpark and everything like that. What people don't realize is outside of that short porch that you're going to find out down the line, you actually have a relatively decent ballpark. It's not necessarily warm in the month of April. The New York Yankees also are a little bit of an all-or-nothing offensive team, and the Mets, they themselves, 6 unders, 3 overs thus far this season, so they have seen 66.7% of their home games go under the total, which I find that to be intriguing. Now, if you're looking at the best under team at home all season long, it's been the Miami Marlins. They have played just 2 out of their 15 home games thus far this season over the total. I don't think bookmakers have been accounting for just how pitcher-friendly Miami is in general, but getting back to my point of the New York Yankees, going into the day on Friday, they were the top under team in all of baseball, 17 unders to 9 overs. This is just not your traditional Yankees team, and for the Toronto Blue Jays, I think that you're going to be able to get a good buy point on their overs as well, as they've actually started out the year. The Blue Jays, 15 unders, 2 pushes, and 9 overs. They are the only team, other than the Guardians and the Yankees, with north of a 60% under rate thus far this season. In Cleveland, very easy to explain that one. They've got really good pitching, especially in their bullpen, and they don't provide any power, so there's that. But for the Blue Jays, they've been relatively league average with regards to the deep ball. Maybe we overrated them a little bit coming into the season, but I think that this has just been a little bit more of a matter of circumstance. I do think that the Blue Jays, they're going to be able to crank out more deep balls. I do think that that is going to be lending itself to more overs on this team, but that has been one that has been fascinating to take a look at. And then a couple other demonstrative teams to the over, the Atlanta Braves, 16 overs, 9 unders, and a push. This is very easy to explain with them. Bullpen has been a little bit shaky recently, and for the Atlanta Braves, they have been able to do a great job with their offense. And the Boston Red Sox, they don't have a lot of pitching. They've got quite a bit of hitting. 66.7% of their games have won over the total, 18 overs to 9 unders. So I feel like those are pretty easy to explain. And if you want to break it down a little bit further, these are some of your most profitable pitchers in terms of the big leagues to this point this season as well. And you're going to notice that the profitable pitchers, they're typically on the more profitable teams, as this comes from OddsShark, by the way, just letting you know where this comes from. But if you make a $100 bet on all these pitchers, this is how much money you'd be up right now according to closing numbers. Your number one pitcher for making you money right now, that would be Mitch Keller. If you bet $100 on him on every one of his starts thus far this season, you're up $510. Mitch Keller has been able to do a rock-solid job for this team. I believe that they are 5-1 in his starts, and when you're getting plus prices with them against the LA Dodgers teams like this, that has been good. And I just feel like Mitch Keller is being priced like he was in 2022 when he really did a solid job this offseason, being able to add some velocity. You can see it in spring training, and you don't want to be putting all of your eggs in the basket of seeing how a guy is doing in spring training, but I do think that you can pick up some tendencies with some of these guys. So far, so good there. Braxton Garrett, if you bet on him $400 on every one of his starts, you're up $481. Betting on him, he has been rock solid for the Miami Marlins. That has been a nice story. And then we're going to go through 3 through 5. Joe Ryan, 5 starts. If you bet him in every one of them, plus $432. Yusei Kikuchi, the reborn Yusei Kikuchi. The Blue Jays have not lost any of his starts. If you bet on him for $100 on every one of his starts on the money line, plus $530. And Ronci Contreras of the Pittsburgh Pirates, you're up $388 if you bet him for $100 on every one of his starts. And you're noticing some of the top pitchers, they're in the top 10, but not necessarily the top 5, just because you're laying a little bit more juice with them in a lot of spots, like Zach Gallen. If you bet him for $100 on every one of his starts, you're up $359. Garrett Cole, every one of his 6 starts, you're up $347. Shane McClanahan, $324 if you bet him in all 6 of his starts. So these have been guys that have been very profitable. And now you take a look at the want money loss category, and the biggest loser of money for you thus far this season, most people would be thinking, oh, it for sure has to be guys like Patrick Corbin. Insert your Oakland A's pitcher here. Nope, it's Blake Snell, Steven Matz, Jose Urena, Lance Lynn, Jordan Lyles. All these guys are 0-5 right now in their starts. Jose Urena and Jordan Lyles, these are bad pitchers on bad teams. Lyles, he's bad. He's not objectively bad like Jose Urena, but he's not on a good team whatsoever. And you're going to be noticing that when it comes to pitchers on teams like the Oakland A's, the Kansas City Royals, they're certainly going to be on this list, but you're going to be noticing that guys that you're going to be laying the full allotment of the money on, they're going to be a little bit higher up on disappointing teams like, the Chicago White Sox, like with Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn has been terrible this year, and at the same time, the White Sox have been a complete and utter disaster. You've also got some overpriced pitchers on here as well. Sandy Alcantara and Shane Bieber. If you bet on them in their starts, you're down money right now. For Shane Bieber going into the night on Friday, you were able to rebound a little bit more, so this is probably cut in half a little bit. But Shane Bieber, if you bet on him for $100 in each out of his first 5 starts of the season, you'd be down $337 with a win. I think that you're now more around about $250 some odd dollars. Sandy Alcantara, you bet on him and his 5 starts thus far this season, you're down $333. But this list is right now littered with guys for the Chicago White Sox. Lucas Giolito, Michael Kopech, they're in the top 20. And then once you get into the Oakland A's starters like James Caprillion and company, they certainly are there as well. But you're not really having to pay a lot of juice. And any win that you get with someone like Ken Waldichuk, that actually ascends them from this list. So you want to be mindful of that. That's a big reason why if you bet on every single Patrick Corbin start thus far this season, you've actually made a little bit of money even though he's 2-3 and even though he stinks because, well, when you are taking plus prices with Patrick Corbin, you don't need to hit every one of them to be a little bit successful. And then when it comes to the most and least profitable teams in all of baseball thus far this season, I'm sure that a lot of you guys can figure out who some of the least profitable teams in all of baseball right now. All 3 of the least profitable teams, they reside in the American League and they've all stunk. The Oakland A's, along with the Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals. If you bet them $100 on the money line in every single one of their games thus far this season, with all 3 of these teams, you're down anywhere between $1,150 and $1,300, depending upon your closing numbers. They have all been just big, giant disasters. Meanwhile, the most profitable teams in the big leagues, as you can expect, the Tampa Bay Rays, you've been able to make a lot of money. This is obviously on the money line, but if you're taking them on the money line and every one of their games, you're up $589, but they actually aren't your most profitable team in the big leagues. That would actually be the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it's the Pittsburgh Pirates by a country mile because you keep getting plus prices. If you lay $100 on the money line, you're getting more than $100 back. That is indicated by the fact that the Pirates, they entered into the day on Friday 18-8, but you'd be up $1,295 if you bet them every single game this year, which is why, even though the Tampa Bay Rays are 24-5, you've been able to make a substantial amount more on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then the other team has really been standing out in terms of being a good money maker thus far this season, the Baltimore Orioles. If you've taken them for $100 on the money line in every one of their games, 17-8 going into the day, they're up $561 for you thus far this season. So I do think that it is so fascinating to take a look at because, as we know, in every sport, you are betting numbers. You are not betting on teams, and when you're able to get good numbers like you have been with the Pittsburgh Pirates, you are able to make a bunch of money. Now, is there probably going to be a little bit of regression with the Pittsburgh Pirates? Absolutely. I do not think that this is going to be a bunch that at the end of the season they're going to be winning north of 2/3 of their games, but it's very interesting to gauge. And a team like the St. Louis Cardinals, in which it's been the pit of misery for the team that plays at Busch Stadium, dilly dilly. Hopefully you enjoyed that joke. Being down $807 when you do have a turnaround, things should iron out a little bit more, and you don't want to over/underreact to one good, one bad month for a team because it is very much a marathon. If we were gauging this like we were to, say, the NFL, we'd be like 3.5 weeks through the season, so it is a long haul, but those are some of the things that stood out to me, and those are some of the trends that we're seeing in Major League Baseball right now, so hopefully you enjoyed that, and if you've got a way that I can improve this, if there's something that I left out, or if you just want to hear more of this, hit me up at gunit_81 on Twitter. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so always send these in via the timeline, but always open to your feedback, your constructive criticism, not just being like, oh, your teeth are crooked, and boo-boo, or anything like that. Actual constructive criticism, but always open to that. Always want to improve the podcast in any way possible, but hopefully you enjoyed that today. And coming up next, right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast, I give you picks and analysis on every single game on the betting board as we touch them up.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Visa Family of Podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that segment. I don't want to be doing this like every single day or anything like that. I think that the just difference in opinion that I get from guests, it provides something good. But I always like to do this with the Baseball Podcast about once a month. Take a look at some of these trends because I do think that the biggest trend sport out there is Major League Baseball. We've officially hit that 30-day marker as well, so I thought that this was good timing for that. Like I said, if there's ways I could prove this, if there's things that you like about it, and there's things that you didn't like about it, tweet at me at gunit_81. Just don't be a complete and utter boob about it, but that said, any constructive criticism, any praise, any sort of just ways to be able to improve, more than happy to answer those. Or if you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you, we've got you guys covered there. Keep in mind, letters EM, name me does not matter. So there is that at gunit_81. Now let's take a look at the betting board for this Saturday. I'll give you guys picks and analysis on every single one of these games as per usual right about now as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at gunit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. And I will say, aside from this, we do have two added games. They are the rainouts from yesterday. So Pittsburgh versus Washington, Baltimore versus Detroit. Those are the games that are going to be at the bottom of the board just because we didn't know we were going to be getting them until last night, so they get added. But I will be doing those all together, which means that we're going to be leading off with one of those double dips. 951, 952 is going to be in conjecture with 981, 982 on the betting board. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're facing off against the Washington Nationals. Says Rich Hill is on the bump for the Pittsburgh Pirates in Game 1 against Patrick Corbin of the Washington Nationals. And then in Game 2, it is going to be Vince Velasquez going for the Buccos, and Chad Kuhl hopes to be Mr. Cool for the Washington Nationals. We've seen some flipperoonies with regards to some of these pitching matchups, as it was supposed to be Rich Hill versus Chad Kuhl on Friday, so you can't just take the price from yesterday and pretty much flop it over. But in terms of my personal numbers, because as I'm doing this right now with the nature of these doubleheaders, we really don't have a lot of numbers, but it's very similar for both of these handicaps. In the Velasquez versus Chad Kuhl start, I made the Pirates minus 132. I made Rich Hill minus 135 against Patrick Corbin, so we're in the low minus 130s on both games with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and in both games, I made the total in between an 8.5 and a 9. So an 8.5 or less, I'm going to be looking at the over, a 9 or higher to the under on both of these games, so it actually keeps it very clean there. But in terms of Rich Hill versus Patrick Corbin has been bad, but if you've actually bet on Patrick Corbin in his 5 starts thus far this year on the money line, you have sadly made a little bit of money. Patrick Corbin, not great, 5.88 ERA, 5 home runs allowed in 26 innings, walks per 9 rate, hovering right around 2.7, but he's not the worst pitcher in the big leagues, and Rich Hill is remarkably better than him. For Rich Hill, he's been able to get the team to a 3-1 record in his last 4 starts, but he's got a 4.85 ERA. He's the oldest active starting pitcher in the big leagues. In terms of home runs per 9 rate, he's giving up more than that than Patrick Corbin. He gets a little bit more swing and miss. The big reason why I did set the Buccos at a minus 135 in game number 1 against the Nationals is that the Pirates just flat out back up Rich Hill with a little bit more, as this is a Pirates bullpen that has David Bednar and Colin Holderman. Both of these guys have been able to do a solid job. Holderman's ERA is up to a 3.75. I think that is going to be coming back downward, but they get back Robert Stevenson. He's been solid in the bullpen, and flat out for the Washington Nationals, they are dead last in the National League in terms of home runs. You do have guys that are able to move the line for this team, as you've been able to get about a 260 to 270 batting average out of Victor Robles, Joey Meneses, along with Lane Thomas, but only guy on the team that has multiple home runs, that would be Jeimer Candelaria. I should say more than 3 home runs for him, as he's been able to slug out 4. You have had someone like a Alex Call be able to provide a 370 on base. Keeper Ruiz has been able to move the line as well. And I will say for the Washington Nationals, since the All-Star break of the 2022 season, they've got a top 10 bullpen ERA. Hunter Harvey, Carl Edwards Jr., Mason Thompson, Erasmo Ramirez. They all had a sub-3 ERA last season. Ramirez has been less trustworthy this year. His ERA has been north of 5, and Kyle Finnegan has certainly had his ups and his downs, but he seems to be reversing the tide a little bit more. And then for the Pittsburgh Pirates, we have seen Brian Reynolds go a little bit more cold. He got off to an amazing start to the season. He's been stuck on 5 home runs for quite a while, but still doing a good job of getting on base. He's hitting at 300. You've got Connor Joe, who's been able to make things a go. He's hitting above 300. I do, though, think that you're going to see some regression with some of these guys, as right now you've got Jack Swaniski along with Andrew McCutchen, Mark Mathis, Topico Maricano, Rodolfo Castro, all in between a 272 to 290. I do think that McCutchen should be able to maintain, and I like what I've seen out of Swaniski as well from a power perspective. He's been able to give you 5 home runs, but I do think that in terms of this Pirates team, hitting at 258, we are going to see a little bit of regression there, but this is a little bit more of a hitter-friendly watch at a national ballpark. It's relatively neutral, so I do think that with these pitchers going, I do think that you're going to be able to get some runs. And in terms of the Vince Velasquez versus Chad Kuhl start, I do think that Chad Kuhl is going to be able to shape up a little bit more, as it has been a rough start to the season for him. 7.36 ERA. He's allowed 5 home runs in 18 and a third innings. He's given up 12 walks in those innings as well. The swing and miss stuff is not bad, and he is a former Pittsburgh Pirate. He's been away from the team for a few years, so most of the guys that were there, they're now gone, so not a lot of familiarity. And for Vince Velasquez, he's right now posting up 3.76 ERA. I need to see a bigger sample size before I can buy in. He's still giving up 3+ runs in 3 out of his 5 starts thus far this season, but is backed up by a relatively solid bullpen. I do think that we could see the long relievers in this one. I will say for Vince Velasquez, he's actually pitched better on the road than he has at home thus far this season. That was actually the case for him last year as well. So in both of these games, an 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under, with Rich Hill set him as a -135 favorite against Patrick Corbin, so want to lay up to -134 with them, plus 136 or higher. Going to be taking a look at the Nationals, and then with Vince Velasquez versus Chad Kuhl, made the Pirates -132, so want to lay up to a -131 with the Pirates in that game. 9:53, 9:54 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves hit the road face-off against the New York Mets. Tyler McGill is going to be going for the Mets, and Spencer Strider is on the bump for Atlanta. Atlanta's between a -150 to a -160 favorite, and we're between +135 and +145, your number on the Metropolitans, with 8 being the total. Unders between -110 to -120, the overs anywhere between even and -110. Set the Braves at a -163 on the money line. If you're looking at the run line, you're getting it anywhere between +110 to a +115. I was willing to lay up to a -105. I am going to be taking a look at this Atlanta Braves run line. The biggest thing with Tyler McGill is that he honestly just has not pitched that great at home. Thus far this season, Tyler McGill has been able to hold down the fort for the team. The 5 home runs in 25 innings is a little bit unsightly, but he's been able to work on the walks. But take a look back to 2022. He was just all over the place. He had a 4.37 home ERA, 5.84 road ERA. Overall, gave up 7 home runs in 47 and a third innings. And then you go back to his rookie season as well. That year he had an ERA of a 4.69 at home compared to a 4.32 on the road. So he just has not had a lot of success in New York. And you take a look at this Mets lineup, and it's just all about Pete Alonso trying to generate power for this team. Entered into yesterday with 10 home runs. He has been absolutely magnificent, but you need other guys to be able to pick it up, as you've got Eduardo Escobar, Tomas Nido, Francisco Alvarez, Tommy Pham, Francisco Lindor, Mark Canha, all entering into yesterday hitting at 229 or lower. Brandon Nimmo's moved line. He's hitting right around a 330. Starling Marte, he's got good wheels, but he's not able to get on base, and they have to go up against an Atlanta Braves team that was number 1 in the National League last year in terms of total home runs. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been incredible with the way that he has been able to get on base. An on-base percentage hovering right around a 440 going into yesterday. And then you had Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, all entering into yesterday anywhere between 5 and 7 home runs apiece for all those guys, with Olson and Riley both above a 350 in terms of on-base. Sean Murphy, he slugged out 6 home runs going into yesterday, 400 on base. Now, on the fold, you could use a little bit more there. Kevin Pillar has not been great. They've been dealing with injuries to Michael Harris, the second along Travis D'Arnaud, and Murphy has filled in admirably there, but Marcell Ozuna off to a relatively rough start. And for the New York Mets, they've got a little bit of a leg up in terms of the bullpen. Their ERA entering into yesterday, top 10 in the big leagues. That's guys like Brooks Fraley along with David Robertson. They have been valuable pickups for the team, and I've always liked Drew Smith as well. Meanwhile, for the Atlanta Braves, they are dealing with an injury to Brasio Iglesias. They just got Colin McHugh back off the injured list. That should be able to help them out a little bit, because Jesse Chavez has not been cutting in for the team this far this season. Kirby Yates, he was very good with the Padres many years ago. He's now up there in years. He's got north of 4 ERA as well, so It's been a little bit testy with the Braves bullpen, but Spencer Strider has been nothing short of magnificent since the beginning part of last year. 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. He is coming off of a masterful start against the Miami Marlins, where I believe that he took a perfecto/a no-hitter into the 7th inning. He had 13 punch-outs in that one, and he's had at least 9 strikeouts in each out of his first 5 starts. He has given up a grand total of 6 runs across his first 5 starts. I think that this should be domination by Spencer Strider. I think that the Mets, who have really been struggling outside of Pete Alonso at the plate, are going to struggle once again. Somebody told us 7.4, so going to be diving under. And when it comes to the Atlanta Braves, going to be willing to take them on the run line at a plus price, was willing to lay up to a minus 105. 955, 956 on the betting board. It is the Chicago Cubs. They had third face-off against the Miami Marlins. It is Edward Cabrera who's going to be going for the Miami Marlins, and as of right now, the betting board says to be determined for the Chicago Cubs. It looks like it is going to be one Caleb Killian who's going to be getting the start, and assuming that it is Killian against Edward Cabrera, I did set the Miami Marlins at a minus 123. So the minus 115 to minus 120 price that we are seeing on the Miami Marlins, I'm willing to take that, seeing anywhere between 8 and 8.5 on the total on the 8. Over is minus 120, the under even on the 8.5, over and under are both at minus 110. And for Caleb Killian, he was solid at the minor league level 2 seasons ago. Really had a fall off last year at the AAA level. He posted up a 4.22 ERA, and that's not even a juice ball league because he had 5 walks per 9 innings. Thus far this season, he's made 3 starts. He's allowing 12.5 hits per 9 innings. His strikeout numbers aren't necessarily too great. He's still giving up north of 3 walks per 9 innings. Highly touted prospect that could eventually be able to put it together, but in the 3 starts that he got a season ago, Caleb Killian got completely destroyed as he allowed 15 runs, 13 of which were earned. He had 12 walks in those 3 starts, and I believe that he lasted fewer than 12 innings, so not great to say the least. Edward Cabrera's had his command issues as well. 20 walks in 22 innings thus far this season. He has walked at least 4 in 3 out of his 5 starts, but he's got a lot more swing and miss. This year he's been able to give you just under 10 punch-outs per 9 innings. He does a good job of being able to keep the ball in the yard. Actually had a significantly higher home ERA than a road ERA a season ago, but for the Miami Marlins, the biggest thing for them is that they are currently last in the National League in terms of runs per game. You do have a pair of guys, though, Jez Chisholm along with Orde Soler, that entered into yesterday with 5 home runs apiece. If you take a look at advanced analytics, the way that Soler has been able to rip the cover off the ball has been impressive, and they've got guys who are able to move the line. Luis Arias is sitting north of a 400 right now. I expect a little bit of regression, but that has been amazing. Brian De La Cruz, Garrett Cooper, Yoli Gurriel, all hitting at least a 277 going into yesterday. The bottom of the fold has really been killing them. Guys like Jesus Sanchez, Avicio Garcia, Nick Fortes, Jacob Stallings hitting a 200 or lower has been brutal. And for the Chicago Cubs, they entered into yesterday leading the National League in terms of batting average. Among the guys with at least 28 at-bats, you had all but 3 out of those 10 hitting at least a 275, as you've got Cody Bellinger, who should be back any day now. I think that he was on the paternity list, so congratulations to him, as he, Nico Horner, Yan Gomes, Ian Happ, all hitting between a 300 to a 305, aside from Horner, who's hitting at 336. Not a ton of pop outside of Patrick Wisdom. 9 home runs for Wisdom thus far this season. He's going to have his strikeouts. He's probably going to end up with north of like 160 of them once again this year. But guys like C.A. Suzuki, Nick Madrigal, continuing to get on base. That has been solid. Both of these teams, not terrible bullpens, not great bullpens. Brad Boxberger, Michael Fulmer have been good additions for the Chicago Cubs, with both of these teams were between about 15th and 22nd in terms of bullpen ERA entering into yesterday. You've been able to get a few solid innings out of Mike Leiter Jr. in the Cubs bullpen as well. And for the Marlins, having JT Chargois out of the fold has hurt this bullpen, as AJ Puck has been able to do a solid job. Yohan Quizada is someone that they're going to be looking to for innings moving forward, as Huskar Brazobin has been a little bit hot and cold. And Dylan Floro this far this year has been okay, but if you look at the advanced numbers, doing for a little bit of regression as well. But I do think that with the Chicago Cubs trotting out their Killian, it's not necessarily the world's greatest situation. Wouldn't doubt it if Adbert Alzolay is sort of piggybacking off of him. So it is a circumstance where I set the Miami Marlins at a minus 123, going to lay up to a minus 122 with them. Did set my total at 7.7, very pitcher-friendly ballpark, and it has the Miami team that has had a tough time generating runs as a whole. And I do think that there's going to be a regression to a Cubs team that's really been leading the National League in terms of runs per game. Set my total at 7.7, looking under and looking at the fish. Now we go to my DK Nation write-up pick, 957, 958 on the betting board. This is going to be happening out in Mexico City. The San Diego Padres technically the home team against the San Francisco Giants. Sean Manaea goes for the San Francisco Giants. Joe Musgrove is on the bum for the Padres. Padres between minus 165 to minus 175 favorites, between plus 150 and plus 155 your number on San Francisco. 15 is the total. Over and under both at minus 110, and that's a right-up pick. I set my total at a 12.8. Now, the reason why we've got such a high total in this one is that this ballpark is about 7,200 feet above sea level. For comparison, about 2,000 feet higher up than Coors Field. And Coors Field, the right and left field fences are out between 347 and 350 feet. Dead center is 415 feet. Dead center in this ballpark is 400 feet. Fences are out on both sides right around 325 feet. So it's a smaller ballpark at higher elevation than Coors Field, but 15 feels relatively ridiculous because you do have a San Francisco Giants team that they're going to be trotting out their Sean Manaea, who stinks. He has went 3 2/3 innings or fewer in 4 out of his 5 appearances thus far this season, but I do think that they're probably going to get him out of there very soon, and this team has been one of the best in terms of their bullpen at getting ground balls, as they are actually 4th in terms of ground ball rate among bullpens since the All-Star break of the 2022 campaign. Now, bullpen has been having its issues. This San Francisco Giants team enters into the series 25th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, and the San Diego Padres, they're a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA as well. It's been a little bit rough for them, but I do think that Joe Musgrove is going to be able to do a good job in this circumstance since the beginning of the 2022 season. 3.12 ERA, and among qualifying starting pitchers on the road, he is in the top 10 in terms of ground ball outs, so I think that is very good to help you out for Joe Musgrove. Does a relatively solid job of being able to limit hard contact. And for the San Diego Padres, this team is currently last in the National League in terms of batting average. They're 27th in the league in terms of runs scored. They just have not been able to get anything generated whatsoever. You've had a little bit of power thus far from Juan Soto as he's been able to provide the team with 4 home runs, but it's really been Xander Bogaerts who's been the only guy living up to his billing. 409 on base, hitting above a 300, he's been able to supply 5 home runs. And then for Soto, even though you've got a few home runs, Trent Grisham, Brandon Dixon, Austin Supernola, Rougned Odor, all these guys are hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Ha-Seong Kim, Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth, Fernando Tatis Jr., all hitting at 226 or lower. Matt Carpenter is able to get on base, but he's hitting at 229 as well. And it's been a rather tough now for the San Francisco Giants. They currently lead the National League in terms of home runs on a per-game basis with 2. They also lead the National League in terms of percentage of at-bats that end in a strikeout. So you've got both of those things there. And for the San Francisco Giants, they very much play platoon splits. You're probably not going to have anyone on this team end the year with north of 30 home runs, but as it stands right now, you've got 6 guys with between 4 and 5 home runs. Michael Conforto, J.D. Davis, Mikey Yastrzemski, Thairo Estrada, Blake Zabel, throw in there Wilmer Flores as well, but this team doesn't move the line a ton. They're hitting about a 240 as a collective, a little bit below average in terms of MLB standards, with Conforto along with Zabel, both of these guys hitting below a 235. Brandon Crawford has been terrible this year. He and David Villar both hitting below a $175, and for the Giants, recognize that the bullpen is not great, but Camilo Yudval, Scott Alexander, these guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA since the beginning part of last season. Rogers squared has been a big giant roll of the dice as Tyler Rogers, a sub-1 ERA. Taylor Rogers north of a 6 ERA, and I don't think that Sean Manaea is going to be lasting very long in this game. Meanwhile, for the Padres, I do think that Joe Musgrove is going to be able to land a good start, which is big because their bullpen has been all over the place. So I will say, Brent Honeywell has been solid at sub-250 ERA. You've had Josh Hader do an absolutely magnificent job for this team, and I think that Luis Garcia is going to get a little bit closer to what he was last season. For Luis Garcia, right now posting up an 8.44 ERA to 3.39 ERA last season. I do think that he's been a little bit unlucky. Steven Wilson had a sub-3 ERA last season as well. So my DK Nation write-up pick, I recognize it's at elevation, but 15 is just too far here with this total. I am going to be taking a look at the under, and then when it comes to the money line / run line, I do think that the San Diego Padres, they should be able to get a little bit more online. I made this line minus 204 on the money line for the Padres, and that's part of it as well. If you don't have the Padres bet, that means that you don't have last ups there. That helps out with the under as well. But for the Padres, was willing to lay up to a minus 120 on this run line. Currently finding it in between even money and minus 110. I'm going to reduce the juice. I'm looking at the Padres on the run line. I do think that they get to Sean Manaea in this spot. So looking at that Padres run line and my DK Nation write-up pick, that is going to be on this total under 959, 960 on the betting board. It is the Arizona Diamondbacks on the road facing up against the Colorado Rockies as You got Noah Davis on the bump for Colorado, and Tommy Henry is on the bump for Arizona. Pick'em game here. Both teams are anywhere between minus 104 to minus 110 on the money line with a total of 12. Unders anywhere between minus 110 to minus 120. The overs anywhere between even and minus 110. Set my total at 13.2. I'm going to be looking at the over in this spot. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, I'm going to be willing to ride with them. I set the Diamondbacks as a minus 133 money line favorite with Noah Davis. He has looked very solid in his first few starts. I think that this is going to be all crashing down. If you take a look at his minor league numbers, he was giving up well north of 3 walks per 9 innings. He was in a juice ball league, but those walks are not going to be going away, in my opinion. He's always had some relatively good swing and miss stuff, 10 punch-outs in 9 2/3 innings, but he's been very lucky on balls in play. He's given up 9 hits in his 9 2/3 innings, along with these walks. He's had to strand a lot of guys on base. Meanwhile, for Tommy Henry, he did give up about 1.9 home runs per 9 innings last season at the big league level. First start, it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. 4 hits, 4 walks, a lot in 4 1/3 innings, 3 total runs against Kansas City Royals. I do think that he's going to be able to clean that up a little bit. That's why he's been relatively okay in terms of his command. If you look at the minor league level, you tell that at the big league level, he was a little bit spooked. 4 walks per 9 innings a season ago, and now he does have to pitch at Coors Field. And as we know, Coors Field, it does lend itself to a whole bunch of runs. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this team is towards the top of the National League in terms of batting average, especially at home, as you got a lot of guys that you wouldn't expect it to hit right now. It's Nick Ahmed along with Gabriel Moreno yesterday entered inning above a 280. You've been able to Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte do a solid job moving the line as he, along with Lourdes Gurriel, between about a 255 to a 270, and you know that you're going to be able to get a little bit more moving forward on a Christian Walker. He's only hitting about a 225 with 3 home runs as far this season. That should be going upward. Meanwhile, for the Colorado Rockies, they were the number 1 team in terms of runs scored per game at home last season. They were dead last in terms of runs scored per game on the road last season. You got to figure that his team is going to have similar splits this year because it always happens with the Colorado Rockies. Chris Bryant has been able to hit above a 300 along with Elias Diaz. These guys have done a solid job of moving the line. You've got Charlie Blackmon, who always hits above a 300 in Colorado. They don't necessarily supply a bunch of home runs, just given the ballpark dimensions, and it is a little bit harder to hit one out in April than, say, June, July. But I do think that for the Colorado Rockies, they are going to be able to get a little bit of power generated. As you take a look at their home splits going into the game yesterday, they had 10 home runs in their first 10 games, but they were hitting as a collective 283 with Ryan McMahon hitting about a 353 at home. And for the Rockies, they have been able to fortify their bullpen a little bit more. They pick up Pierce Johnson in the offseason. He's been a little bit of a hot mess, right around about a 4 ERA, but I like the additions of Brent Suter along with Brad Hand. They've got Daniel Bard back in the fold. Meanwhile, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they made good additions of their own, as you've got Andrew Chafin, Miguel Castro to fortify what they have from last season in Kyle Nelson along Joe Mantiply, a pair of guys with a sub-3 ERA. I flat out think that Tommy Henry is a better pitcher in this spot, and I do think that with the way that Coors Field plays, it is going to be yielding a bunch of runs, and I don't think either starter is going to be long for this game. So set my total at 13.2. You're at 12.5 looking at the over with the Diamondbacks. I'm going to be willing to take this pick on prices. I made them north of a minus 130 favorite. 961, 962 on the betting board. It is the LA Dodgers playing against the St. Louis Cardinals. Jordan Montgomery is going to be going for the Cardinals, and Clayton Kershaw is on the bump for the Dodgers. And the Dodgers are anywhere between minus 139 and minus 155 favorites, anywhere between plus 125 and plus 135. Your number on the Cardinals. 8 to 8.5 is your total. On the 8.5, under is between minus 115 and minus 120. Over is between even and minus 105. On the 8, over is between minus 110 to a minus 125. The under is anywhere between plus 105 and minus 110. Did set my total at an 8.3. I personally would rather have an 8 over rather than an 8.5 under, because the LA Dodgers, they are getting Max Muncy back in the fold, and I do think that they are going to be supplying quite a bit of boom. And Clayton Kershaw has legitimately been giving up far more home runs at home rather than on the road if you date it back to the back half of the 2020 season. I do think that the St. Louis Cardinals get a little bit more back online with regards to their offense as well. So I would rather have an 8 over right now, and I did set the LA Dodgers minus 188 on the money line. I was willing to lay a small price on the run line. Find that anywhere between plus 135 to plus 140. I'm going to be willing to take that for the LA Dodgers. I believe that they have had 121 in total regular season wins since the start of the 2022 season. I might be off by 1 or 2, but only 19 of those have come by 1 run. And I do think that this is going to be a nice power display from them. And I do think that the Cardinals, they're going to be able to move the line as well. you've got a lot of guys that they're just sitting on 2 home runs as of right now for the St. Louis Cardinals going into Friday. Just 3 guys north of 2 home runs thus far this season. Nolan Gorman has 6. He's hitting at 290. Paul Goldschmidt, 4 bombs, hitting at 300. And then you've got Alec Burleson. He's been able to hit about a 235 with 3 bombs. You do have Tommy Edman as well, but so many guys like a Brendan Donovan, Wilson Contreras, Nolan Arenado. You just go down the list. It feels like everyone else has 2 home runs and they're all hitting like a 265 to a 275. Meanwhile, for the LA Dodgers, this team has not been able to move the line, but they lead the National League in home runs, sitting at 223 as a collective going to yesterday. That's a bottom 5 mark in the big leagues, but their on-base percentage is actually very good. This is also one of the best teams at being able to draw walks. You know that Mookie Betts is going to be able to pick it up. He's hitting at 233 with 3 home runs thus far. That is not Mookie Betts-like. Now, you've got James Outman and Freddie Freeman, both hitting at 287, right around 365 on base, and with Outman, 7 home runs as far this season. The big key for the Dodgers, the bottom of the fold, as Jason Hayward, Chris Taylor, David Peralta, Trace Thompson, Austin Barnes, Miguel Rojas, all these guys are hitting a 200 or lower. That is really what's been killing them. And for the LA Dodgers last year, they had the top bullpen in terms of ERA in the National League. This year, it has been right around the 20 range, as I do think that they're going to be able to pick it up. Evan Phillips, Alex Vesia, Yancy Almonte, Caleb Ferguson, they all had a sub-3.2 ERA last season. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Cardinals, it's been a little bit rudderless for them, as they've been dealing with having Ryan Helsley be up and down. That has not been great. I do like Genesis Cabrera, Giovanni Gallegos, so they bring in Jojo Romero, not a guy that I necessarily have a lot of faith in as well. And then when it comes to Jordan Montgomery, he's always been good at not giving out the free pass. He was giving up about 2 walks per 9 innings last season, so I do think that you're going to be able to get some length out of him. He sometimes does get a little bit involved in just giving up too much contact in general, because he does a solid job of not giving up walks. He typically gives you about 8 to 9 punch-outs per 9 innings, and you take a look at what he's done this year, giving up just 1 home run in north of 28 innings. That's pretty solid, but I do fear that that could be trending upward just a little bit. Last year, about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings surrender, but on the road, that hiked to right around about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. I do think that the LA Dodgers are going to be able to get to him. Looks like Max Muncy should be back. He entered into yesterday leading the big leagues in terms of home runs, so getting an 8, I'm going to be willing to take a look at the over with Clayton Kershaw. I do think that he's going to be able to do a solid job here. He still is providing right around 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, just 5 walks in his 31 innings. I think that he outclasses Montgomery, and I do think that the Dodgers have a bit of a better lineup in this spot. Looking at the Dodgers on the run line at a plus price, and I'm going to be taking a look at the total over. Here comes the other of our double dips. 963, 964 on the betting board is going to be in conjecture with 983, 984 on the betting board. As of right now, we've got no numbers up on these games because we have seen a flip of pictures. I'm going to be utilizing MLB.com for the expected starters in this one, as the betting board is a little bit confused, as it looks like in game number 1, we're getting Dean Kramer going for the Orioles and Eduardo Rodriguez going for the Detroit Tigers. And then in game number 2, Grayson Rodriguez is going to be going for the Orioles, and Matthew Boyd is going to be on the bump for the Detroit Tigers. We are going to be going with this, and any changes are made, those are going to be up on my Twitter feed at GN_41 because it's a murky situation. But first things first, we'll get to Kramer against Eduardo Rodriguez. I set Kramer and the Orioles as a minus 114 favorite, and on both of these games, I set my total at an 8.2. So on both games, 8 or less, looking at the over, 8.5 or higher, looking at the under. For Eduardo Rodriguez, he has come out and shoved thus far this season, 2.32 ERA. Not necessarily getting a bunch of strikeouts, about 7.5 punch-outs per 9 innings, but has worked on the walks. Actually led the American League in terms of total walks during the 2019 season. Thus far, 5 walks in 31 innings thus far this season, and he's coming off of giving up 1 hit and 7 shutout innings against the Baltimore Orioles and his team losing that game. Thus far this season, the Detroit Tigers are 1-4 in its starts because they have flat out provided him with a lack of run support. If you do the math here, they have provided him a grand total of 7 runs of support in his last 5 games. I do think that this should be going northward a little bit because it's really hard to average 1.4 runs of support per game, but it makes sense because this Detroit Tigers team has been absolutely putrid at the plate. They are currently in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in pretty much every offensive category. 17 home runs in 24 games. They're in at 216 as a collective, and just take a look at this lineup. You've got Matt Vierling along Zach McKinstry. They're both hitting between about a 255 to a 265. Eric Haas has been able to hit a 270. These are the only 3 guys on the roster that are currently hitting above a 238. I mean, it's just really sad. You have had Gary Carpenter along with Nick Maton be able to give you 4 home runs apiece. Both of these guys are hitting at 220 or lower. Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, Jason Rogers, all in between about a 220 to 225 is rough. And the Orioles just flat out have the Detroit Tigers outgunned in the bullpen. Even if you do have Eduardo Rodriguez give you 7 strong innings, you then have to go down to the bullpen and realize, oh, good grief, we have to deal with these jabronis, as you had so many guys last year like Michael Fulmer, Gregory Soto that you were able to rely upon, Andrew Chafin as well. This year you just don't have as much of that. You still have Jose Cicero from last season. Alex Lang has been able to do a relatively okay job, but you just don't have the arms that you have on the flip side for the Baltimore Orioles. Your longer guys like a Mason Engler, Tyler Alexander, all these guys have north of a 3.70 ERA. Meanwhile, for the Orioles, they're currently number 3 in terms of bullpen ERA. Keegan Aiken is able to provide some length. Mike Baumann has been able to give you multiple innings. He's got a sub-1 ERA thus far this season. Cionel Perez has fallen off a little bit, but I do think that you're going to be able to get a solid start out of Dean Kremer. For Kramer, he's provided a 6.20 ERA, and we've seen massive regression from last year. This has never been a good strikeout guy since the beginning part of last season, right around 6.4 punch-outs per 9 innings, which is why I did think that it was a little bit befuddling that last year at a 3.23 ERA, giving up right around 0.8 home runs per 9 innings on the road. He was giving up the deep ball a little bit more like 1 home run per 9 innings, but certainly I did think that was going to be going northward, but going up against this lineup, that's going to be very beneficial for him, because the one thing that Kramer does well, he doesn't walk a lot of guys. 7 walks at 24 2/3 innings, playing in a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark against the Detroit Tigers, being backed up by the bullpen that he is. I did think that he should be able to get the job done, so in game number 1, I did set the Orioles at minus 114, so willing to lay up to a minus 113, plus 115 or higher looking at the Tigers, and then 8 or less looking at the over 8.5 or higher to the under. And then at 983, 984, the later game, Grayson Rodriguez goes for the Orioles, Matthew Boyd for the Tigers, and I set the Orioles in this one at a minus 142, just flat out because Matthew Boyd gives up so much hard contact. Since the All-Star break in 2019, Matthew Boyd is giving up about 2 home runs per 9 innings. He's coming back after he did not start pretty much a single game last season, and he's been okay thus far, but he hasn't lent a lot of length. 5 innings or fewer in each out of his 4 starts. He always jacks up his pitch count because he goes for strikeouts, and he's a good strikeout guy for his career, north of 9.5 punch-outs per 9 innings, but he's currently giving you about 4.6 walks per 9 innings, and then that puts it in the hands of some poopy long relievers for this team. He's only given up 3 home runs in 19 innings thus far this season, so that's not been bad. Grayson Rodriguez, he's got that tendency to do that as well, but he's backed up by a far better bullpen. Rodriguez, good up-and-coming prospect for this Baltimore Orioles team that he's had a little bit of an up-and-down start to his career between his starts against the Chicago White Sox and the Oakland A's, and given up 9 runs in 9 1/3 innings, but coming off of the best start of his career, last time he started, he was going up against Eduardo Rodriguez and the Detroit Tigers on Sunday. 5 scoreless innings, did walk 3, but swing and miss stuff clearly there with them 10.5 punch-outs per 9 innings, and then you take a look at this Baltimore Orioles lineup, and I do think that they are going to be able to manufacture enough runs to be able to support them. They're currently number 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. I do think that we're going to see a little bit of a fall off with this. This is a little bit of a top-heavy lineup as of right now, but I do think that you're going to see guys get back online, as Gunnar Henderson, Adam Frazier, Anthony Santander, they're all hitting a 215 or lower. Only Henderson has a on-base percentage worth of 300. Ryan Mountcastle, 20 RBI, but only hitting about a 230 with a 252 on-base, but has been able to supply 6 home runs. Adley Rutschman, Austin the Say's kid, both of these kids are hitting above 285. Both of these guys giving you 4 home runs apiece. It's a team that has had 29 home runs over the first 24 games of the season. It's not great. It's not terrible. I do think that they're going to be right around there when it's all said and done, maybe a little bit higher, but I do think that with Baltimore, the bullpen is going to be able to help out Grayson Rodriguez, and I think that Matthew Boyd is going to be out early, which means that you're going to be seeing that Tigers bullpen. So once again in this one, 8 or less looking at the over, 8.5 or higher to the under, and then in Grayson Rodriguez versus Matthew Boyd, willing to lay up to a minus 141 with the Orioles, would need at least a plus 143 to take a shot on the Tigers. So hopefully I kept that clean for you guys. 965, 966 on the betting board. It is the Minnesota Twins playing us to the Kansas City Royals. Brad Keller is going to be going for the Royals, and Bailey Ober is on the bump for Minnesota. It is a total over and under, both at minus 110. With Minnesota, they're anywhere between minus 210 to minus 220 favorites, anywhere between plus 185 and plus 195 is your number on the Kansas City Royals. With the Royals, I was willing to take a shot as long as I was getting at least a plus 187. I set my number at a plus 186. Right now, seeing a lot of plus 190 or so, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Royals. Now, with Brad Keller, you always fear the walks, as he's given up 19 walks in 25 innings thus far this season, and for his career, he's given up about 4 walks per 9 innings, but in 3 starts on the road, he's actually been solid, posting up a 3.31 road ERA. Walks again have been a little bit of a concern, but last year, he was giving up a lot more hard contact than he was this season. Last year, opponent's batting average was .277. He's clearly missing a lot more barrels thus far this season, so that is something that you do like. Now, I will say on the board for ESPN, I am currently seeing Sonny Gray. I think that they are just mistyping this as betting board, and I believe that ESPN is also listing Bailey Ober. But with Ober, I do think that he's going to be able to lend a relatively solid start. Someone that just came off the injured list about a week or so ago, but has always been able to do a solid job in terms of the command. Last year and the year before that was only giving up about 2 walks per 9 innings. It's been a very short career for him thus far with 32 starts across his 2+ seasons. He is prone to giving up hard contact, as he's given up for his career right around about 1.6, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, but playing at a pitcher-friendly ballpark against one of the most deplorable offenses in all of baseball, that should be able to help him out. As this Kansas City Royals team, they entered into the day on Friday in the bottom 3 in terms of total batting average. They were able to get 6 runs yesterday, so give them a little bit of credit, as you've got Bobby Witt Jr. along with Vinny Pasquantino, who have been able to give you between 4 and 5 home runs apiece. Witt Jr. sitting about at 240. Pasquantino has been able to hit 270. And Salvador Perez seems to be picking it up. 3-8 game yesterday. He's now hitting a 265 for the season, has been able to supply 3 home runs, but still have so many guys like Nate Eaton, Michael Massey, Kyle Isabel, Hunter Dozier, MJ Melendez. They're all hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. And for the Minnesota Twins, they haven't been too impressive with their lineup as well, but getting back Jorge Polanco has been big. He's been able to give you a 367 average. He's able to hit for a little bit of power. Joey Gallo all of a sudden has been able to show a whole heck of a lot of something. He's got 7 bombs, just missed another one yesterday that went for a triple. He's had a 368-ish on base. You've had Carlos Correa be a little bit slow out of the box, and then you expect a little bit more out of the likes of Jose Miranda, Byron Buxton, Trevor Larnach, are all in between about a 242, 250. I think that they're going to be able to pick it up a little bit as well, especially Buxton from a power perspective. Just 5 home runs thus far this season. After last year, he was able to get a home run every about 15 or so at bats. And for the Minnesota Twins, it's been a pedestrian bullpen. Not great, not terrible. They are currently missing Ore Alcala, but they've got another Ore and Ore Lopez, who was able to give the team a sub-3 ERA last season. Yohan Duran is able to throw 100+ miles per hour. And for the Kansas City Royals, bottom 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that Aroldis Chapman and Scott Barlow have been relatively solid for the team. Your long relievers like Jose Cuas, Taylor Clark, Carlos Hernandez, Amir Garrett, they are all guys that you can't trust. And I actually do think that Josh Taylor might be able to give this team a little bit of upside, but there's not a lot of trusting in this Royals bullpen. But I do think that Brad Keller going to be able to go a little bit deeper in the game. I do think that he's going to be able to limit the walks. And for Bailey Ober, even going up against this deplorable Kansas City Royals lineup, he does give up the deep ball. He has always been off and on injured. He typically just is not stretched out enough because he's coming off of so many rehab assignments that you don't know what you're going to be able to get out of him. I think that this is going to be a low-scoring game. I like the way that Brad Keller has come out this far this season, and it's a struggling Minnesota Twins team in terms of the lineup as well. So I did set my total 7.4, looking at the 800, and with the Royals at a plus 187 or higher, going to be one to take them on the money line. 967, 968 on the betting board. It is the Seattle Mariners. They hit the road face-off against the Toronto Blue Jays. For the Blue Jays, it is good old to be determined. Meanwhile, Chris Flexen is on the bump for them. I have simulated this as if we are going to be getting Kevin Gausman, and I think bookmakers are doing the same. Right now, we're finding the Toronto Blue Jays at DraftKings at minus 205, plus 175 on the Seattle Mariners. 9.5 is the total, under is minus 120, and the over is even. Seeing a straight 9 out there as well. But with the 9, the over is anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is anywhere between even a minus 110. And the other books that aren't DraftKings, I'm seeing them in between minus 190 to minus $2 on the Toronto Blue Jays, anywhere between plus 170 to plus 185. Your price on Seattle. The bigger question is the run line. I set it at a minus 113 on the Toronto Blue Jays. I am currently seeing minus 105 at DraftKings. I'd be willing to take the run line if we do get Gausman along with Chris Flexen at these numbers. For Kevin Gausman, he's been giving up quite a bit of contact thus far this season, and that'll happen just because he doesn't give up any walks. 5 walks in 31 and 2/3 innings, and despite the fact that he gets strikeouts, he is in the zone quite a bit, so that does allow for a little bit of contact. 4 home runs surrendered in 31 and 2/3 innings, and this is a little bit of a hitter's paradise in Toronto, but absolutely love the way that he's shoving, and this is just a complete pitching mismatch. You take a look at Chris Flexen, and he's right now posting up at 8.86 ERA, giving up 21 runs at 21 and a third innings. He's a guy that doesn't get a lot of strikeouts and is currently giving up 4.5 walks per 9 innings. That is a recipe for absolute disaster, as he he has given up a grand total of 18 runs over the course of his last 3 starts across 12 and a third innings. He has just been simply figured out. He's not really locating well. Now, he is backed up by a Mariners bullpen that entered in the series at the top 10 in terms of bullpen ERA. Got a pair of guys in Ben Murphy along with Paul Sewald that last season all had a sub-3 ERA. Diego Casilla, though, is a little bit of a roll of the dice. Matt Brash coming out of the bullpen has had north of a 5 ERA. I will say I like what I've been seeing out of Justin Topa along with Taylor Saucedo, but for the Toronto Blue Jays, even though bullpen has been relatively average to begin the season, was expecting perhaps a little bit more out of Jordan Romano. His ERA is right around 3.5. I still like the fact that you've got guys like Jimmy Garcia, Tim Mesa, Zach Pop, they're able to do a solid job. Anthony Bass, well, get your popcorn ready whenever he's out there, but by and large, I do think that this Toronto Blue Jays team should be able to get it done here as they actually entered right around league average in terms of home runs. Entering into yesterday, you know that this is going to be going upward as Flagler Jr., Bo Bichette, Matt Chapman, they've all been able to give you right around 5 or so home runs thus far this season. All 3 of these guys currently are hitting above a 315, so they have been impressive following Andrew Kirk after a slow start to the season. He had a 3-hit game yesterday. He was able to supply a home run. You know that George Springer is going to be able to pick it up. He, Dalton Varsho, Brandon Belt, all below a 225. You know that that's going to be going northward. Meanwhile, for Seattle, they were 3rd worst in the league in terms of batting average last season, and they've been doing much of the same this season. Jarred Kelenic has been amazing as Kelenic has been able to provide you with a 380 on base, 7 home runs, and Eugenio Suarez, he's been able to get on base, but hasn't provided a lot of home runs. That's the exact opposite of what you expect out of him, but the bottom of the fold, these guys like Colton Wong, along with Jose Calabreo, they're on their AJ Pollock. They just have not lived up to their billing. Teoscar Hernandez is hitting at 220. He's been all over the place thus far this season, so I do think that Kevin Gausman and company should be able to get it done. I did set my total at 8.3. I think that the Mariners are going to have a tough time getting to Gausman, so assuming that we get Gausman versus Chris Flexen, this is going to be a circumstance where I'm going to be taking a look at the 9/9.5 under, and with the Blue Jays, want to lay up to a -112 on their run line. 969, 970 on the betting board. It is the Cleveland Guardians hitting the road to face off against the Boston Red Sox as Zach Plesac goes for the Guardians. As of right now, it's looking like we're getting Brian Bayo for the Boston Red Sox. I'm currently only seeing a number up at DraftKings. I'm seeing -120 on Boston, even money on the Cleveland Guardians. 9.5 is the total, under is -120, and the over is even. Was seeing a little bit earlier, we were getting the Guardians more around a +115 or so, and if we're able to get that price, I'd be taking a look at the Guardians. I personally set the Red Sox at a -106. There's a little bit of question mark here because there might be a possibility that Garrett Whitlock goes, and if Whitlock goes, I was setting the Red Sox more around a -143, so be mindful of that. But if we do get Plesac versus Bayo, anything above a +106, I'd be willing to take a look at Cleveland. Now, if Plesac not been the world's sharpest thus far this season, as he has allowed 13 earned runs over the course of 18 innings. That said, he's been a little bit better in his last 3 starts. He's given up 3 runs or fewer, going 5+ innings, and every one of them, given up just 1 home run, 3 walks in those last 3 starts. Never been too much of a swing and miss guy. 13 punch-outs in 18 innings this far this season, but he's backed up by a Cleveland Guardians bullpen that, if you dated back to the All-Star break of the 2022 season, #1 in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, you've got trepidation here with the fact that Emmanuel Clase has been used up in back-to-back days, so that's a little bit of an issue, but that said, you still have guys like Aniel De Los Santos, Nick Sandlin, Trevor Stephen. These guys all posted up a sub-3.2 ERA last season. I do think that James Karinchak is going to be able to turn it around after a rough start to the season, and for the Boston Red Sox, they entered into the day on Friday, #4 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, but they're a very top-heavy lineup as you got Justin Turner, Masataka Yoshida, both providing north of a 365 on base, and then Alex Verdugo has been able to hit right around 300. Rafael Devers, main power hitter, 9 home runs, but only about a 231, but got a lot of guys towards the bottom of the fold not holding up their end of the bargain. Kike Hernandez has been hitting right around a 245. Tristan Casas, Yu Chang, along with Christian Wong. These are guys that are hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, so they have been a little bit of a letdown. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this team is currently last in the American League in terms of total home runs. They were able to supply a pair of them yesterday, but right now your top home run hitter is Jose Ramirez with 3 home runs. And what was really generating offense for the Cleveland Guardians last season was not necessarily the home run ball. They were second to last in terms of home runs last season. It was just being able to move the line. Guys like Oscar Gonzalez, Will Brandon, Ahmed Rosario, Andres Jimenez, Steven Kwan, Jose Ramirez. They were all hitting at least a 270 last season. Only guy hitting above a 265 thus far this season is Jose Ramirez. You've had Josh Bell hitting about a 215. He was brought in to bring the team some power. He has not been able to do so. So that's a little bit of an issue for the Boston Red Sox. Their bullpen ERA is actually in the top half of the big leagues. I think that's built a little bit on sand, as you've got guys like Brennan Bernardino, Ryan Brazier, Caleb Ort, Richard Blyer, and if you really get down to it, Kenley Jansen, that are trying to close out games. That's not necessarily too terrific, but I do take a look at Brian Bale. Last year, he had an ERA that was well north of a 4.5, but his fielding independent was more than a point lower than that. He, thus far this season, has been getting lit up. 8 runs given up in 7 2/3 innings. I do think that we're going to see some positive progression for him. He's a good swing and miss guy. He's already gone, thus far this season, 8 punch-outs, and at the minor league level was a strikeout artist for this team. So I think going up against a team like Cleveland is going to serve him well. So in this circumstance, set the Boston Red Sox at a -106, one to lay up to a -105 with them, plus 107 or greater. Looking at the Guardians and set my total at 8.7, seeing between 9 and 9.5, diving under 971, 972 on the betting board. The New York Yankees set the road face off against the Walker Texas Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi is going to be going for the Rangers. Johnny Brito is going to be going for the Yankees, and the Yankees are anywhere between plus 120 and plus 128 underdogs, anywhere between -135 to -145. Your number on Texas, 8.5 is the total. Over is between -115 and -120. The under is anywhere between even and -105. And I personally made the Yankees a very slight favorite in this spot. I've set them at -111. Going to be one to trust in Johnny Brito in this spot. I think that he might just have a bad matchup in general against the Minnesota Twins, because in games in which he has not started against the Minnesota Twins, he's got a sub-1 ERA thus far this season. Against the Minnesota Twins, it has been absolutely disastrous, which is why you see the 6.11 ERA thus far this season, and the other starts he has made, it's not quite a sub-1 ERA. I might have over-exaggerated a little bit, but 14 2/3 innings against the Angels, the Orioles, and the San Francisco Giants. He's given up 2 runs, and then against the Minnesota Twins in those 2 starts, 10 runs surrendered in 3 1/3 innings. So that has been a little bit tough, and both of these teams have been dealing with some injuries in terms of their lineup. Corey Seager is currently out of the fold for the Texas Rangers. Giancarlo Stanton is out for the Yankees. Yankees proven to be a little bit of an all-or-nothing team. They did have Aaron Judge on the fold yesterday as well. You got to figure that he should be good to go for the weekend, though. And then Anthony Rizzo, he's been able to do a good job moving the line. 380 on base. You know that he's able to supply quite a bit of power. DJ LeMahieu, he's hitting right around 270. Big thing for this Yankees team, getting the bottom of the fold to pick it up as Kyle Higashioka, along with Franchi Cordero, Aaron Hicks, Oswaldo Peraza. All these guys were in the starting lineup yesterday. All these guys hitting below 200. Anthony Volpe seems to be turning it around a little bit, but he has been great. Meanwhile, for the Texas Rangers, got a lot of balance towards the middle of this lineup as you've got Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, Nate Lowe, all these guys in between about a 262, 275. Robbie Grossman has been able to move the line along with Ezekiel Duran towards the bottom of the fold. And Marcus Semien, he's had 4 home runs over the last 2 weeks. He's out providing about a 370 on base as well. But both of these teams have been terrific with their bullpen. The Rangers, they had a little bit of a fall off in Cincinnati, but still a top half of the league team in terms of bullpen ERA. Jose Leclerc, coupled with Brock Burke, throwing their Jonathan Hernandez. They all had sub-3 ERAs last season. But the New York Yankees entered into yesterday number 1 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. I really like all these guys for them, other than Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes has been all over the place as far this season, but even he has been able to turn it around. Jimmy Cordero has like a 3.25 ERA, but you take a look at all these guys. Juan Marinaccio, Michael King, Ian Hamilton, Greg Weissert, throw in there Albert Abreu. All these guys have a sub-255 ERA right now, so they do back up Johnny Brito quite well. And for Nathan Eovaldi, he just gives up lots of contact in general. You date it all the way back to 2014, and opponents are right around about a 263 off of him. He's got a 5.20 ERA. I mean, you talk about the problems with Brito, you've got those with Eovaldi as well. Both of these guys have only given up 1 home run, by the way, and for Eovaldi, just 5 walks and 27 2/3 innings. You go back to Brito, in terms of his minor league numbers, he was only giving up like 2.5 or so walks per 9 innings, 10 walks and 17 2/3 innings. I do think he's going to be able to clean that up. Eovaldi has been able to get about 10 punch-outs per 9 innings, but gives up a lot of contact in general. I do think that the Yankees are going to be able to get to him in this spot. Did set my total at 8.4, getting an 8.5. Going to be looking at the under. Yankees enter this series the top under team in all of baseball. I think that that continues. And when it comes to the New York Yankees, made them the very slight favorite. So getting a plus price on the Yankees, taking them on the money line, and taking a look at the under. 973, 974 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays hit the road face-off against the Chicago White Sox. Lance Lynn is going to be going for the Sox, and Yoni Chirinos is on the bump for the Tampa Bay Rays. Rays are between -132 to -140 favorites, between plus 118 and plus 130. Your number on Chicago, 9 is the total. Unders between even money at -115. The over is between -105 and -120, and with the Tampa Bay Rays made them minus 148 on the money line. If you're taking a look at the run line, you're only getting about a plus 115 to a plus 120. I'm seeing a plus 125 at DraftKings, and my cutoff point was I needed at least a plus 110. I would rather play it safe on this one with the money line just because you're dealing with someone in Yonny Chirinos that he's sort of been up and down. He's been a bit of a journeyman with the Tampa Bay Rays. And thus far, he's been really good with the Tampa Bay Rays this year. 9 1/3 innings scoreless, but he got a lot of starts in 2019, and then he was sort of stuck in their minor league system for a few years. Has always done a solid job of not giving up walks. With Chirinos, for his career, it's right around about 2.2 walks per 9 innings. So you feel good about that. He just gives up quite a bit of hard contact. And for the Chicago White Sox, what is good about this for Yonny Chirinos is that they just have been completely rudderless at the plate all season long. You've got no discipline with this team whatsoever. They, by the way, are not hitting lefties this year as well, which that's just making a bad situation worse for the White Sox. They're hitting 231 as collective. They are one of the worst teams at being able to draw walks in the big leagues. Now, you do have Jake Berger, who's been able to give the team 6 home runs this far this season. He's been able to hit 240, and then you got Luis Robert, who's been able to supply 5 home runs, but not having out there on the field Yohan Moncada along Tim Anderson has really been taking a toll. Yasmani Grandal has been able to move line for this team. Andrew Benintendi, he's hitting right around a 280 or so, but you've got Oscar Colas, Romero I mentioned before, Sebi Zavala, Elvis Andrews, Eloy Jimenez, all these guys hitting at 223 or lower. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they were limited to just 3 runs yesterday, but this is still the top team in the league in terms of runs scored, in terms of home runs. You've got so many guys that are stepping up in a big way. Brandon Lau hasn't necessarily hit for average, but he's been able to supply the team with 7 home runs. He's still getting right around a 360 on base, and you just take a look at this team. And right now, I believe that out of guys that have seen a legitimate amount of at-bats, so they have all seen at least 50 at-bats, 7 different guys are providing at least a 366 on base right now, and all but one of them, and Taylor Walls, have 4 home runs. He has 3. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible what we're seeing, and the Tampa Bay Rays are in the top 5 in terms of bullpen area as well. So if Yonny Chirinos just sort of farts out here, you've got Jason Adam who's able to give you multiple innings. Colin Boucher has been solid in this bullpen. Pete Fairbanks has been just amazing, not giving up a single run all season long. So I do feel good about them. And for Lance Lynn, I think he's going to step it up a little bit more compared to his 7.52 ERA, but we saw the same darn thing from him last year. First 2 months of the year, he was terrible, and then he picked it up when it was too little too late. He's given up at least 3 runs in each out of his last 4 starts and 3+ walks in 4 out of his last 5 starts. Last year, he was really good with his command. I think that he's going to sharpen up there, and he is getting strikeouts north of 10 punch-outs per 9 innings. I do think that the Rays, they're doing for a little bit of aggression with regards to their lineup, and Yandy Diaz is dealing with a little bit of an injury as well, but still take a look at the spot for the Rays. I think that it's a good one. I did set my total at an 8.6. Here at a 9, I'm taking a look at the under because I do think that the Rays cooled down a little bit with this hellacious start to the season, but I think that they get the job done against what has been a very sad White Sox team that I believe has now lost 8 straight games. So taking a look at the Rays on the money line and the 9 under, 975, 976 on the betting board. It is the Cincinnati Reds, in the words of Bill Belichick. Yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and they are going to be on the road to face off against the Oakland A's as Hunter Green is going to be going for the Reds, and Kyle Mueller is going to be going for the Oakland A's. We were thinking Kyle Mueller was going to be going on Friday, so him getting pushed back to Saturday has led to this game being completely off the board, but I've got my numbers. I set the Cincinnati Reds as a minus 136 favorite, so I'm willing to lay up to a minus 135 and made my total 7.8, so 7.5 or less, looking at the over 8 or higher to the under. Now, the Oakland A's are actually the top over team in all baseball right now, but you're going to notice with the Oakland A's, they have got very dramatic home and road splits. As for the Oakland A's, when they have been on the road this far this season, they're pumping out a bunch of deep balls. They're hitting right around a 245. At home, they're hitting a 206 as a collective, entering into yesterday with 9 home runs in their first 12 games. As you've got Brent Rooker along with Jesus Aguilar and Shea Legolaris. When they're on the road, the 3 of them, they combine for a little bit over a home run per game. When they've been at home this far this season, they're combining for about 0.25 home runs per game. They go up against a guy in Hunter Green that has been allowing a lot of hard contact throughout his career, but he's been better on the road than he has been at home because his own ballpark in Great American Ballpark, it is a incredibly hitter-friendly ballpark, which is why when he is on the road, His home runs per 9 rate is right around 1.3 for his career. It's not bad, it's passable. Meanwhile, at home, it goes well north of a 1.5, and when he's been on the road throughout his career, he's been providing an ERA that hovers right around a 4.15, which is a full half a point better than it is at home. So you like that about Hunter Green. Hunter Green, he has been a strikeout machine. Those have taken K-props with him have fared quite well, as he's getting right around 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's going up against someone in Kyle Mueller that he has just been getting roughed up in general. He's only getting right around 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He was in the minor league system, the Atlanta Braves, last few seasons, and it clearly shows, as his walks per 9 rate throughout his MLB career, it is currently right around 5, and he's backed up by the worst bullpen in the big leagues. They entered into Friday with an ERA that was hovering right around 7. I mean, it's just been so bad. You've got nobody that can really come out of this bullpen and give you some production. They do get Domingo Acevedo off the injured list, and Sammy Long picking him up. I think that'll help Sam Moll, Zach Jackson. They had sub-4 ERAs last season. It's been a rough state of affairs for them, and you take a look at Cincinnati, and they've been a league average bullpen thus far this season. Alexis Diaz, Fernando Cruz, both of these guys, they had a sub-2 ERA last season. Derek Law has been able to pick it up. Lucas Sims is someone that I've always liked for the team. He's off the injured list. He has yet to give up a run, and for the Cincinnati Reds, not a bunch of mashers on this lineup, as they did not return a single guy from a season ago that had north of 12 home runs, but you do have guys that are able to move the line, as Jonathan India along TJ Friedel are both hitting above a 275. Tyler Stevenson is hitting in that neighborhood about a 280. They're looking to be able to get a little bit more moving forward out of Henry Ramos, so he's back. You do have a bottom of the fold that involves guys like Jake Fraley, Will Myers, Jose Barrero that are hitting at 235 or lower. They don't necessarily provide a lot of thump, but with the Oakland A's, even though you do have someone like a Brent Rooker who's hitting above a 300, Esterio Ruiz has been able to move the line as well. You do still have guys like Jace Peterson, Tony Kemp, Kevin Smith that are hitting at 215 or lower as well. Incredibly pitcher-friendly ballpark out there in Oakland. So 7.5 or less, looking at the over 8 or higher to the under. And with the Reds, want to lay up to a minus 135 with them. For the A's, you need at least a plus 137 to dive in on them. 977, 978 on the betting board. The Philadelphia Phillies hit the road face-off against the Houston Astros. Christian Javier is going to be going for the Strovs, and Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler is on the bump for Philadelphia. 7.5 is the total. Unders between minus 110 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even and minus 110 with Houston. It is anywhere between minus 120 and minus 130 that you're laying with them. And between plus 110 and plus 115 is your number on the Philadelphia Phillies. And with the Phillies, I set them as an underdog of plus 162. I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Houston Astros. Zach Wheeler just has always gotten off to slow starts in his career, and you did it back to last year. He has been significantly worse on the road than he has been at home. By that I mean north of 2 points worse on the road than he has been at home. At home, over the last 2 years, his ERA is hovering right around 2. On the road, it's right around 4. So that is something that is not very encouraging going up against someone in Christian Javier, who's been rock solid this year. Strikeouts per 9 rate is down a little bit. It was north of 11 last year. He's right around 9 this season, but has been able to work on the walks. Last year, north of 3 walks per 9 innings, 6 walks in 28 innings thus far this season. He's given up a little bit of hard contact, but when you go up against the Blue Jays and the Atlanta Braves in your last 2 starts, that's going to happen. And 3 runs for fear surrendered in 4 out of his 5 starts. That has been good. He's backed up by a bullpen that last year was number 1 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. They're back in the top 8 thus far this season, as you've got guys like Ryan Stanek, Brian Abreu, Rafael Montero, Seth Martinez that all had a sub-3 ERA last season for the Philadelphia Phillies, currently a bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, they have been much better recently. Jose Alvarado looks like a bona fide closer, but they still employ Craig Kimbrell. He's looked a little bit better in recent weeks, but I don't expect that to last. Andrew Vasquez has actually been very good in this bullpen, along with Luis Ortiz. Gregory Soto starting to look like the guy that we saw in Detroit, but the Phillies, the big thing for them is being able to get some power, because they've been doing an amazing job of being able to move the line. Right now, you've got Nick Castellanos, Bryson Stott, Umando Sosa, even Christian Pache, not going to last, but these guys along with Brandon Marsh, all hitting at least a 300 for the team. Trey Turner, JT Realmuto, they're hitting right around about a 270 to 280 along with Alec Bohm, but you haven't been able to get a lot of power. Kyle Schwarber, he's went off for 6 home runs, and he's really the one guy in the lineup that's not really hitting for average, but you need a little bit more power there. Meanwhile, for the Houston Astros, they've got Jeremy Pena starting to get online. He's back above a 240. It's his 5th home run of the season. Last night, you've got Jose Abreu, who has not hit a home run all season long. He's always been known for getting 100-plus RBI with the White Sox. He just looks completely cooked right now, but you do have Mauricio Dubon, Corey Julks hitting above a 300 after a slow start to the season. Alex Bregman is starting to pick it up, 355 on base And then you do have Yordan Alvarez, who got a little bit of a breather yesterday. He, along with Kyle Tucker, have both been able to give you 5 to 6 home runs apiece. So I do think that Christian Javier should be able to go out there, land a relatively solid start in what I think is going to be a lower scoring game. I did set my total at 7.8. I think we've went a little bit too low on this total, especially with the Phillies bullpen. So going to be taking a look at the over. Even with Jose Altuve being hurt, I do think that they should be able to get to Zach Wheeler in this circumstance. And with the Astros, set them more around a minus 160. So looking at the money line of Houston, and I'm going to be taking a look at this total over. And we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers play out the LA Angels. Reed Detmers is going to be going for the Angels, and Corbin Burns is on the bump for the Brewers. Brewers are anywhere between minus 145 and minus 155 favorites, anywhere between plus 130 and plus 135, your number on the Angels. 8 to 8.5 is your total on the 8. Overs between minus 115 and minus 120. Unders between even a minus 105 on the 8.5. Unders between minus 115 and minus 125. Overs between minus 105 and plus 105. And with the Brewers, set them at minus 177 on the money line. If you're looking at that run line, finding it in most places at a plus 125. Circa currently has a plus 135. Count me in for that. I set mine at a plus 105. And for Reed Detmers, he went down to the minor leagues last season, and when he came back up, his ERA was right around 3 from July on. He gave up 2 home runs in his last 60-plus innings of the season, and he's looked rock solid thus far this season. A 4.15 ERA, but he has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 3 out of his 4 starts. Walks have not crept back up. 7 walks in 21 2/3 innings. His strikeout numbers still north of 10 per 9 innings, but I do think that Corbin Burns is going to be able to find it here as well. He has now given up a combined 4 earned runs over the course of his last 3 starts, looking much more sharp. Just 5 walks in those last 3 starts as well. Strikeout numbers are down. He's only gotten 22 strikeouts in 27 2/3 innings. I think that he's going to be able to find that form once again, and the Brewers back him up with one of the best bullpens in the big leagues. Other than that 8 spot that they gave up against the Boston Red Sox last Sunday, this team has been solid. They entered into the series 4th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, with a lot of nameless, faceless guys doing a good job. Peter Strzelecki, along with Hobie Milner, Jake Cousins, Joel Payamps. These have been guys that have been very good at being able to get the ball to Devin Williams. And for the LA Angels, you're not going to believe this, but they entered into Friday 8th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. If you watch the LA Angels, you know that they're probably not the 8th best bullpen in the big leagues, but the numbers in terms of ERA say that they're the 8th best team in terms of bullpen ERA. Jay Silfeseth, not a guy that you really trust out there in the bullpen. Carlos Estevez has really been their best reliever thus far this season. He's got 5 saves thus far this year, sub-2 ERA. Matt Moore comes over from the Texas Rangers. He's been solid, but when you look at guys like Jose Quiada, Andrew Wantz, these are guys that you really don't have a lot of faith in. And for the LA Angels, it's been a topsy-turvy lineup. You've got Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, 2 of the baddest men on the face of planet Earth, but Taylor Ward has not been able to give you a whole heck of a lot. Sitting at 215, his power numbers are a little bit down this season. The former Milwaukee Brewer, Hunter Renfroe, he hit for about a 250 with 25 home runs last season. He's got 7 bombs. He's hitting north of a 270 thus far this season. Drew Rochelle is hitting at 300, but the entire catcher spot with having Logan O'Hoppe out of the fold has been rough. Zach Neto has been able to pick it up a little bit, but still have my question marks there. Anthony Rendon, he just has not been able to go yard. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, it is a lineup that was very hot to begin the season. We're starting to see some regression, especially with Garrett Mitchell, their young center fielder, on the injured list. You got Christian Yelich, who is right now providing a 230 batting average and not a lot of power. Complete waste of money, but you've got William Contreras sitting above a 300. Rowdy Tellez has been able to supply 7 home runs. He's doing a solid job with a 330 on base. Been able to get some nice production out of Owen Miller, as well as he's hitting north of a 275 for the team. Brian Anderson has been ripping the cover off the ball. He's been one of the hottest hitters in any ballpark in all the big leagues when he's been at home thus far this season, hitting about a 275, 5 home runs as well. So I do think that the Brewers should be able to get to Reed Detmers in this spot, and I do think that Corbin Burns looks like the Corbin Burns of old. I set my total at a 7.7, so you're between 8 and 8.5. Looking at the under and willing to take the Brewers on the run line, and that will wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @Unit_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. Naming does not matter, so as per usual, please just send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire on whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season on this podcast, which means I'll be coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.